Well, we may be blinded, we may be broke, but we have each other, my friends. Artist Journal, November 14th, 2022, in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. I'm so happy Tradscape made this music. It's in my head, every so often I'll be in the middle of the night and I'll have this music and I'll just be so excited, actually. So excited to get to where I am right now to talk to you and have this great discussion, this great ongoing discussion that we are having. And look at this, another portrait. Humbling from Tezos Rodin's, one of our favorite, I consider a concept artist of sorts, even though some people don't like that term. And so that's a whole discussion. What's a concept artist and et cetera, but I find his works conceptual and just very fun. So anyways, Pocobelli's phone, Designs for Living. And the dime store Pepe's Mint features a portrait of the artist and broadcaster Adrian Pocobelli, inspired by an explanation of bad design ideas given on his Artist Journal YouTube show. So of course, we were using the example of, remember, in design, there are right answers and there are wrong answers, and there are many right answers. There are good choices and bad choices, and there are many good choices. But I was asked to give an example of a bad choice in design. I was like, or in art, and again, I consider design as the greater thing, désigner, dessin. Again, if you go to the, do I have it here? If you go to the lives of the painters and sculptors, I believe it's at the start of Michelangelo's or at the start of the book, it says, masters of désigner is how the Italians put it in the Renaissance there. So anyways, so design. So again, I consider art, design is the greater umbrella, you might say, and art is a section of design, and I consider art a poetic form of design. It's basically design with the poetic element, which brings in an irrational element. But to simplify the discussion, we're discussing about design, and there being good and bad choices. And what is a bad choice? Well, maybe putting the keyboard on the side, right, of a phone, rather than putting it underneath or hiding it within, which both could be considered good choices, depending on your purpose. Sorry, the sun is very bright. It might be this way for a few weeks, guys, just so you know, this morning. So anyways, so it appears here we have a inventor, the Pepe guy with his pipe, pondering this side keyboard on the side with this wonderful portrait, by the way. This very nice portrait of this channel. So thank you again. It's always hilarious. There are different kinds of fame. There's pop star fame where it's like, you're famous for the moment and then it all disappears. And it's kind of like, it's very ephemeral. And there's long lasting. And I love being like, this is great, guys, because you never know how the future looks on these works. And that's the kind of you might call it the more important kind. And we do that with each other in this community. We're going to see KHC does it with Heidi Roquette. And again, just look at this beautiful portrait. So really, really nice work. And I also like this contrast of, you see the textured brush here, like the oil paint brush simulation. And this contrasts really nicely with what I'd call a native digital brush here, this native digital brushwork here. So just kind of an interesting contrast, because the temptation, I think, is to do it all with this textured brush. But no, Tezos Rodin's is putting some smooth, untextured work in there, and it creates a pretty nice contrast. So anyways, big shout out. Again, I think Tezos Rodin's, also known as Fax Machinovich, and Wasteman Goldminovich, is probably the person that's appeared on this show the most. So anyways, big shout out. I've been loving and enjoying the work, and it's always a lot of fun. which is what we have here. Digital Baubles, also having fun. Holy Sunday, so glad to pick up this piece by Pocobelli. Dude, killing it again. So thank you, Digital Baubles. That made my day that you were so happy to get it. It's what you want as an artist. There's nothing that makes you happier as someone buys your work and is just thrilled that they were able to get it. That is a wonderful thing. And here is the work. So again, just part of this pixel art sketchbook. And again, my definition of pixel art, and feel free to disagree and leave a comment if you disagree with this. I'm calling it a digital art made with a square brush. That is my definition, rather than a circular brush. Because if we just say simply pixelated art, well, if you zoom in enough with a circular brush, it's all going to be squares, right? It's all going to be anti-aliased squares. Right? If you use a round brush in Photoshop, it's still going to be little squares. So that's why I put the emphasis on the brush. Digital art made with a square brush. That is my definition of pixel art. Feel free to agree or disagree in the comments. I love the comments. And we have a couple coming up here. And just finally on this, 9 books Elon Musk recommends to turn your life around. I've been working with these promoted stories for years. It was my first show in Berlin, actually, in 2016. I moved here in 2016, and I had a show like February 2017. I remember my friend that was like, I don't know if you want to move here. It's not as easy as it sounds. She's like, I can't believe you have a show already. That was great, and I got very lucky. I was drinking, and I ran into the bartender that I knew, and he just happened to run this gallery. And then he's like, oh, you should have a show. It was like underground Berlin, Constantine from Z-Bar, which Fata Morgana. I should show you guys the pictures of the last day of Fata Morgana, which was 2 weeks ago. Too much to do here. Anyways, promoted stories have been a theme of mine for a very long time. And here we have 9 books Elon Musk recommends to turn your life around, along with some screenshots of other stuff, some sort of weight gain sort of stuff. And it's interesting to do a series, and it evolves. And it's just... I love this pixel art sketchbook thing. From a personal point of view, it's very fun to do because you can kind of do anything. It's a sketchbook, and I'm really enjoying that kind of freedom of not having too many rules other than I'm using a square brush and playing with some themes that are kind of similar. Anyways, continuing on, Runetoon has a very, I thought, a nice addition to our conversation on displays. Here it is. Display tech for NFTs is something I think about more than anything. In my opinion, there is no one simple answer. Certain artwork, I think, requires a certain frame. Just like physical artwork needs a variety of framing solutions to best fit each work of art. Your Tempelhof or rowers in the river Urumea, for instance, look fantastic on the Kindle's matted paper-like black and white display. And you might remember that from an earlier show. Runetoon put out a tweet of how those black and white works looked on a Kindle display, and they look fantastic. It looks like the best way to show those works. Or any other kind of sketch kind of work is actually on like a Kindle display. Like with all these ideas, these are worth money. These ideas, because if we ran a display company, we'd be like, yeah, we're going to work on our actual something for sketches, and we'd have a totally unique product, Continuing on, whereas Heidi Roquette's work, I imagine, on an old television from the 90s, I think you'd like that. A Sears 13-inch CRT TV, for instance, another work would look better projected or framed on a nice flat screen. So, yeah, I guess the point is here, and I think Runetoon makes an excellent point, it kind of depends on the work, right? And it's also, you could just say like a square work like Hades on a TV, 16 by 9 TV wouldn't really work. Because, you have these huge black things. You could do it, but it's just, So I totally agree. And I think this advances the conversation actually significantly. I think it's true. Good point. The artwork that is being displayed speaks to what the display should be. I totally agree. Great point. So object.com, they have put out a statement along with FX Hash, Tea Community, and Versum Official on this whole royalties debate. So despite the price of Tezos crashing through the floor, it was below $1 again. Nevertheless, maybe this is the more important thing. Shout out to our friends of XHash, Tea Community, and Versum Official for all coming together with us to protect artists' royalties on Tezos. And here is the statement: respect artists' royalties. Without artists, there's no art. We pledge to never switch to 0% creator royalties, protect artists' earning rights, and empower artists in Web3. These platforms respect royalties. So big shout out to Object, Tea, FXHash, and Versum. That's, we like that. Thank you. Shout out. Interestingly, OpenSea reversed course. Update: we will continue to enforce creator fees on all existing collections. Now, I got an email from Super Rare, along with every other person that probably is on that email list. They were taking issue with OpenSea calling it fees. They're royalties. They're not fees. And I thought that was actually a pretty good point. Because all of a sudden fees, it sounds like a tax, right? Semantics, these things matter, So you can tell the way they're trying to frame it originally is, these are just fees, and who wants fees, right? Whereas royalties for artists, that's a great thing. So anyways, you can read their tweet, but basically the long and the short of it is the community pushed back quite hard. To the community's credit here. So that's, thankfully. So that's a good sign, right? There is hope out there, despite all the sort of scammy business we've seen in the last couple of days. Not really a shock to anybody. I should say shock to some people. Not really a shock to me or to many of us, let's put it that way. I did want to point this out, though. OpenSea put out, in their defense, they put out this bar chart here. So in the red here, you see more and more people. This is by the week, this is October 12th and this is November 2nd. So you see less and less people were paying the fees on collections. As they're saying, this isn't theoretical, this is happening, and more collections are not getting their fees. So it's something that, so you can understand where they're coming from. If all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, if all the traders are like, we don't want to use your platform because we have to pay the fees. Personally, I want to be on OpenSea and just not think about it. So I think they made the right decision. Continuing on, Haftka. Just found out everything I posted recently on Twitter has been minted by a faker on Polygon. So we were talking about the kind of the great look it makes of posting work that you don't mint. It just looks like you have tons of work. It's just a fun thing, right? And see works in progress. You don't need to mint everything, right? Sometimes it's just a work in progress. So you're going to mint that. Well, some people are. So someone was minting Haftka, who we remember, he's the guy that made a couple of speeches, who's got works in the SF MoMA, a bit older, and he's been doing really well on Ethereum. I think he's on Super Rare, I'm not sure. If you think you're looking at my mint, make sure it's not by the scammer. So someone posting some of his unminted work. This happened September 11th. It makes me reconsider posting work in progress and unminted work. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, hey? It does cross my mind. At the end of the day, collectors got to know where they're buying from, right? Because I still kind of want to do it, but it does all of a sudden I'm like, maybe I don't want to post XYZ work because that one I'd hate to see someone mint that first. Because all of a sudden there's a kind of a legitimacy issue. If you're the first to mint something, it kind of gives you a certain claim, doesn't it? So it's kind of a bit of a tricky issue here. So just wanted to highlight that because I thought it was quite interesting. So this person is unhappy about Tezos' price. And here is Minta on the crypto roller coaster. We're experiencing some emotional trip with this crypto market. Me and my friend Pepe, we are luckily okay. Good to hear. This is a drawing. Now, I assume this is a drawing in Procreate. I quite like this Tezos Comet, and actually the whole concept is quite smart, I think, of being actually on a roller coaster, and just the whole thing. I just really like it. So nice work, Minta. Buy for 5 Tezos, and sold out at a Tezos 50 on Friday and Saturday. So there's the live Tezos price for you. And I just wanted to point this out, okay? So a year ago, Tezos was at $5.87. So looking at the glass half full, you are getting basically an 80% off of your collecting. So again, when I started this program, I said, this is not a common scenario where the middle class gets to collect high quality art for next to nothing. This never happens. Okay, and you're getting it for a song. You're getting these works for very cheap. So heads up, put on your collector's hat is sort of my, what I would suggest. Uxine. So working in multimedia, as he put here, quoting the program, shout out Uxine, we are multimedia, multi-chain. Okay, and so he is working multimedia. And you know how we were talking, being multi-chain, how diversifying across chains? Well, I think it also behooves us to diversify across mediums. Because let's say crypto does crash and is down for 2 or 3 years. Again, it's sort of like a financial portfolio. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want your business to just depend on one little section. You want to kind of have business development in all these areas, because a lot of the collectors do not overlap. People who might want to buy this physical work here, they may not even have started, they probably don't have a Kukai wallet or a Tezos wallet. They may never even have no clue what MetaMask is, right? And how blockchain works, and they might be curious, they might want to know, but maybe they're willing to give you $20 for this work here. Okay, so very cool, Uxine. And, and we haven't even talked about the work. Like, look at how interesting it is to see his digital work physically, rendered physically. So fascinating. Look at it. And you get all this stuff that happens only in the physical world. This stuff here, beautiful, right? These sort of accidental things. See the ink or whatever it is seems to have collected here, right? So again, multi-chain, multi-medium. So diversifying across mediums as well as chains. Why shouldn't we? I mean, again, and just the person on the street will take you more seriously if you're not just like some, and I love NFTs, but you're not just some NFT artist or some digital artist. You have sculptures, you have prints, you have etc. paintings, you have and you are on the blockchain, and you're not just on one. Okay, then it's like, okay, I should take this person pretty seriously, is basically what is communicated there. And speaking of multimedium, we have t-shirts here. Here's merch. And so Mikey de la Creme, personally not a big brand guy, I've been rocking these isolationist shirts. And we have covered Isolationist. I realized on the weekend we covered Isolationist Genesis on Super Rare. Because I was saying on Thursday or Friday, I wasn't sure if we'd covered him or not. And we have. And here's a t-shirt by Isolationist. Pretty cool. And this is by ADAD, I believe, whose work we're going to see later in this show. So very cool, right? And also, speaking of Mikey de la Creme, read this. I put my heart and soul into 2 upcoming ETH drops on Arthropo NFT, bringing some of the best up-and-coming artists from the Tezos scene. Let's see who is truly here to support artists. Tomorrow we kick it off with my homie Gloomtube, and we have this new work by Gloomtube on Ethereum. I think it's his only mint that'll be on Ethereum, and a very cool work here. A classic sort of suburban kind of nightmare. So anyways, so give Arthropo and Mikey some support. And here's the schedule. And again, I consult once in a while with Arthropo, LFG. Here's the drop schedule for next week's. And this is Vincent Van Doe is involved as well. Picks for the Field Trip Mint. Very prominent collector in the space here. Gloomtube is on Monday, Bazai is on Tuesday, Sumi is on Wednesday, Gabby Walter is on Thursday, and Levon is on Friday. So you have a full week of basically great art on Arthropo to just kind of keep tabs on Ethereum, bringing Tezos artists to Ethereum. Dana Ulama, just a cool work in progress. Let's take a look. That might have started halfway through. Actually, let's start at the start here. You see all the little adjustments. And I'm loving this whole like anime manga vaporwave thing, kind of cyberpunk thing that I kind of discovered from Limbo and everybody else. Atmos, the guy who does those insanely great cyberpunk works. Look at this. So again, classic colors, and then look at all this stuff. So good night, Dana. Good night. Like, wow. More interesting colors from Michael Micasso, and who seems to be recovering from his flu. Another bigger landscape piece done. I think I'll have to descale my daily piece back to basics in the next few days. Felt like I'm missing something fundamental. I don't know. I kind of like it. I actually quite like it. And the color, I find actually is the star of the show here. Like, to me, in a sense, the landscape, and which is really well executed. It's so well executed that you don't even think about it. You just accept it, and the sky and all of these little decisions, and then it becomes about the color, which is really, to me, unusual in a very, very good way. There's another one here where he's experimenting daily practice. So the time lapse is coming out of this soon. So hopefully that crosses my desk and we can take a look at that. And look at this. I missed this. Edition of 20. We saw the preview on Twitter there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pixel artwork. Looks like a Japanese inspiration. This was interesting here, trying to translate and appropriate the Shin Hanga notable technique with the pixel art medium. So remember we were talking about combination before and the nature of technology, that book? So just combining different things to get to new results. Look at how effective this is. And this was basically offers were accepted between 10 and 20, and a couple of early ones for 4. So not exactly sure how this all worked, if it was a lottery or what. But all to say, if you blinked, you missed it, and I blinked. So Gate. Look at this. This was like super duper cool. Kurt Hustle Collective, combined with Haiti Rocket in the background and a portrait of Haiti, who's dazed by his own work in his own VR Windows world here, and this is just totally rad, right? So yeah, I mean, what is there to say? But your mouth agape and just staring at this incredible show. What a great portrait! He has been acclimated into the puppet pioneers. So congratulations, Haiti. Isn't this fun? Us all doing portraits of each other and everything. So R.I.P. Hen happened, and this is also by Haiti Rocket. Never R.I.P. Cool message, and a very cool work. Interesting colors, too. Very interesting colors, that green with the red. R.I.P., R.I.P., and then you can see Hen is right there, okay? So a diskette with a skull on it. Hilarious. And then a big skeleton here. So people are marking the 1-year anniversary of when Hen went down and basically disappeared. I think his name was Charles, the guy who started Hen, and then he just took down the website one day. I think as someone pointed out recently, the great thing about decentralization is we could just set up a different website and you just plug into the blockchain and you're good. Like, it's not like it disappears because it was on someone's server. Right? So really the virtue of decentralization is reminded to us with this Hen RIP, 1 year later. So access denied. This is by Popple. This is great, but it's still here. So it never disappeared, the Hen and the spirit of Hen. And I love the signature down here. So access denied, and then the skull or the skeleton comes up from the dead. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Popple. I picked one of these up. It's still here. Great title. Heroic title. Richard Nadler. Look at this. So one of the most biggest collectors on Hen. He's probably bought some of your works. He's bought some of my works. Shout out Richard Nadler, who is on Super Rare. And what an incredible journey this year was. Started at Hen, collecting wonderful art, and now my dreams have come true, and I have become a full-time artist. That is the dream for so many of us, isn't it? Thank you all for your support alongside my journey. Looking forward to 2023 with all of you. Almost an early New Year's message from Richard Nadler. Shout out, a huge collector and huge patron of the space, really. Yeah, so that's exciting. Just wanted to shout that out. And also, so our guy HQ, who does like these collectible cases and trading cards, a big favorite subject of mine, actually. And I thought this was a really nice, charming tribute to Hen, kind of putting the Hen website not loading up properly within this collective casing. So a very smart design is how I'd almost put this. I need to mint Hen crashes. That's okay. It's part of the charm. And so there it is. New work by HQ, celebrating RIP Hen. Also, Limbo put out a work. It was tough to see. This is a pixel artwork. So beautifully done here, but you don't really see the pixels too much. I think it's because it's this. I'm not sure if this is a preparatory sketch or if this is the work and it's just Twitter. It's kind of low res. But again, pixel art is, in my opinion, art made with a square brush. So this may have been made with a square brush, but it doesn't exactly look like it there. So maybe this is just preparatory. It's a work in progress. Should I drop it when it's done, or does it suck? Be honest by So Limbo is an awesome follow, is all you need to know from that tweet. And it's a beautiful work, Limbo. Here's some preparatory sketches for his super rare Genesis, which I got to say, him talking about it for a couple of weeks is generating the hype in my mind. It's like, I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. And he's got all these great sketches here. Like, you see the artistry of Limbo here and just these notes, artificial interchangeable hand. So just super duper cool as per usual here. This was interesting. It kind of reminded me of those fashion designer sketches. This is a new artist who we haven't seen yet. So just kind of like almost, it looks like it's digitally made and kind of like a ink and gouache sort of look to it. Minaloy.tez, Woven Sketch 7. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. And you can see Minaloy.tez's work here, just a quick overview. So doesn't it look like a bit of a breakthrough work here with this gouache, sort of like gouache looking digital paint, and I assume it's digital. So just a heads up there. And look at this, another, tempting to call this a masterpiece, another beautiful work by Adelia, Morning Routine. So her morning routine divided into a comic sketch. I think it's brilliant, again. And so here is her getting woken up by her alarm as she's sleeping, 8 o'clock. Then she starts to eat like some dumplings or something. Brushes her teeth and eating some more. I'm not sure how it works. Or maybe it goes here and then cooking and then eating and a big GM. Super duper cool. Love how she doesn't say little decisions like not making that paneling like pure white and even putting this where it's like you can close it just like a window. Like a Mac window. So just a beautiful, beautiful work. Only went for 140. I put in a couple of bids, but it was just too much for my current situation. My daily routine in the morning, how about you? So just an awesome, awesome work. I was thinking to myself, at the risk of being pretentious, it's sort of like if you think of Picasso and Cubism, it's kind of like if you were to take me and then you divide it cubistically, for lack of a better word, it would be like me from different perspectives, right? And then kind of all smudged together in one piece. And what you have here is, instead of it being cubism of space, it's kind of like a cubism of time. It's all these different moments in the morning, all smushed together in one piece in a comic book form. I mean, so again, maybe I'm taking it a little far there, but that is the thought that kind of crossed my mind. Beautiful, beautiful, one of one. GM from Byte by Bit. So sticking on the GM theme. So again, using, I think it's called Banner Mania. Love this one. Would have loved to have picked this up. I think it sold in like 2 minutes. Let's just see. Yeah, 15 Tezos, minted at 43, sold at 45. So congrats on that, 15 Tezos, 1989 Banner Mania. You could just imagine that at the entrance of a museum, the museum of your mind, museum in your mind of your digital museum, GM, you show up, banner, it's fun already. I already glad I paid for that ticket. Continuing on, Daniel W. So the series didn't end with the owl. Heads up. Palmistry. Except for the old diagram on the wall, it's empty like the other rooms. You know what? Maybe this isn't part of the Weird and Terrifying series, okay? So maybe it did end with the owl. I thought this composition was quite interesting. Bit of a golden ratio thing going on here. Let me just maximize this. Bit of a golden ratio thing going on here. Like, you could divide it into the rule of thirds, right? So kind of you can see it almost here, like the focal point is here a little bit. Maybe there, a little bit lower with the palm, somewhere between the eye and the palm. And so interesting kind of how there's this big wall, and then this is just kind of put here. And even this weird kind of dotted area, the glue is almost coming off the wall or something. And then just some other interesting compositional elements here. The plug-in, the socket, kind of balances out this composition a little bit, doesn't it? I'm not sure if that's British. Socket, I'm not sure. And even the floor turns this from just kind of a, it turns it into a space, like an architectural space. Also the socket. So also kind of interesting, as well as this kind of little detail here. So, and the rip and everything, there's a physicality to this. So I found it to be a pretty interesting composition. Sold out right away, edition of 23. Look at this stunning work by Uxine. Question Authority, a self-portrait. Like, this is awesome. Kind of reminds me of William Burroughs with the firearm here. Dangerous Artist. Question Authority, and it kind of, just playing with that whole Italian religious imagery. And then, the three, like, it's awesome. Awesome. I would have loved to have picked this up. I had no money in my wallet. So, yeah, but just a beautiful work, the skeleton, even little details like the skull at the bottom of the hourglass, looks like a army figure, fail now, which looks like a Campbell's soup can, but, appropriated from the Malware Museum. Uxine, now you have to buy for 50, or you can put an offer in. People aren't taking at 15. So, again, a rad work here. Interesting abstract work by Max Drecker, Synth, as we move into our abstract section. So again, playing with that op art sort of thing, because as soon as you try and render the space here and figure it out what it's supposed to be, it starts to decompose. So yeah, kind of an op art business here. Kind of Escher meets like Bridget Riley or something like that, or an op artist of some kind. Max Drecker, edition of 1, did this sell? Yeah, for 60. Pretty nice price. Dan Control with 10 euros, done in his ASCII format. So another kind of semi-abstract work, just very interesting. Love all this stuff here. All this like punctuation and quotes and commas and apostrophes. I love it. And again, remember asemic writing, which is writing that's been divorced from its meaning. It's just kind of its visual components that we're kind of focusing on, and there's a lot of that going on here. Again, it's using ASCII, like text. It's easy to forget, but with some color and with his own kind of flair. Measureless has a new one in this. It's kind of a new series of these animated abstracts that Measureless has been putting out. Not pretty nice. Sold out, edition of 24, and I think it was a Tezos 20, if I remember right. Yeah, it was a Tezos 20. And now it's 640, so you had to jump on that one. And you see here, so this was the first series, which I'm a huge fan of. You can still get this series for basically $20, okay? And this is a very, very nice series, the one with the black background. This has a dark green background, so it's like a new series. And so anyways, it's interesting to just see the experimentation. I think Measureless is really onto something. OX3Y3, who I think we've shown once or twice at least, with a beautiful animated abstract. It looks like an infinite staircase here with some flashing lights. Give you guys a break from the flashing here. Chrysopoeia landings, minted for RIP Hen. So cool. And then Kristen Roos, another prominent animated abstract artist, or digital artist that works with abstracts, has this beautiful work. Do we have any info? Not really. So edition of 100, I think the mint price was $5. And so, yeah, sold out of that. So, I mean, nice business, right? Even $500. Imagine if Tezos was like $1.50. Like that becomes like, you're paying rent, making rent. Kika Nikolela, shout out to her. She's picked up a couple of my works, and these are really interesting. These are like the 3D scanner over the photography. Like it's, what does she call it? Atelier of the Artist. Detail number 2, Cloud Series is a series of photographs taken not with a photo camera, but from cloud points derived from 3D scanned spaces. Okay? And then, so these are the interesting results. So interesting experimentation. More experimentation from rustic digital art, playing with the just abstraction, right? And this pairs really nicely with that other work that we saw, I believe, on Friday. So buy for a Tezos, nice and cheap. Yuri J put this out, Time. This is also, I believe, part of RIP Hen. And just a really cool work of a clock, and it looks like in a office of sorts with a ladder going up, light. So just lots of fun experimentation, as usual, from Yuri J. It's really going somewhere, isn't it, with Yuri J? That's my impression. It's just going somewhere, and it's going to be fascinating to watch where it goes. Diego Barro, with a new work, edition of 3, for $5 each, A Night in Istanbul. I think they're having some issues in Istanbul with internet and whatever. I saw Sumi Ray put out a tweet about that. So I wonder if Diego's in Istanbul. Digital oil painting made on Procreate. So A Night in Istanbul. Yeah, you could almost start the show with this one. It's very topical, isn't it? And beautiful work. Again, kind of looks like it's playing with the photos, and here the photo has disappeared, and using Procreate and an iPad. Interesting, this little red line here. Kind of reminds me of Warhol. I do this. Leave the mistakes. Embrace the mistakes. And it's tempting to see that there, but it's hard to tell. Anyways, it's a beautiful work. I'm tempted to pick it up. Noche on Istanbul. And another natively digital work by Quila Nina, Waiting for the Rain, and the work is called La Tormenta. And it's a huge work, actually. What is the 6,000 by 7,000? Okay, so that's huge. And interesting beige clouds, a little hut at the top of this mountain here. This woman seems to be like semi-telepathic. And again, just that mystical work, some mushrooms, a cut-off tree. Very, very, very interesting. And this ring around, and this, is that the sun behind? So again, just very fun to watch her go digital. And speaking of cosmic works, we have Life and Death, one word, do we? By Ed Marola, who kind of has a Hamlet-type figure talking to a skull with a laptop that is unplugged and a Tezos sign down the road under a purple starry sky. And looks like one of those vases, so kind of a mysterious work, naked dude. And this sold for 22 Tezos, one of one. So you can add that to your collection. A couple of interesting works by Sabato, this new series that he's working on, which seems to be an interior. I like this kind of news thing. And it looks like a gun shop or something. But it's hard to tell, actually, because this kind of part here looks like it's just kind of pasted on to this other part here. The guns are kind of floating in the air, isn't it? So just kind of mysterious. See it there. Is it on a table or is it just kind of floating? There, the fan is kind of fun too. There's another one in this series, Degen Lair, kind of a reference, I think, to our crypto crash that's going on here. And this looks like some sort of medieval, almost stained glass or tinted stained window. And another kind of TV. And this looks like 80s Eurovision or something. Very interesting. Yeah, he's just commenting on how people are like raising the price of the works by like 0.22. Just a heads up that there's a secondary edition listed for 2.22 Tez, just 0.22 over the floor. Anyone want it? I'm sorry, but these flip tactics are annoying and stupid. We are here still buying art because we're crazy MFers, not because we're trying to get flips. So people trying to make like $0 and just maybe they just are addicted to flipping, you know? They just love the rush of buying and selling, making that sale. BR11 with interesting work for the Drank DAO. So again, Drank DAO holders get this for free. They've gotten a ton. Beautiful, beautiful works. This goes for 2 minutes, so we're not going to play the whole thing. But this, you know, almost ancient looking classical setting. Looks like the right, so a play on the Colossus of Rhodes, the Colossus of Thodes. So maybe of Toads? And there's your Pepe with a purple drank. That's my interpretation. If you can do better, leave a comment below. Yeah, the Colossus of Rhodes. I believe, yeah, it's like one of the 7 wonders of the world that didn't survive. Nice stories on that. Padrino. So let me just load this up. So 8-bit Padrino, playing with AI art. So back to this pixel art and AI, which I just find incredibly interesting. So Padrino is making some self-portraits, I believe, and just very interesting kind of stuff here. 8-bit Padrino, I'm having too much fun. And here's another one. The beard's super interestingly rendered too, as well as the glasses and everything. Look at the, even just like those waves on the sea. So just super duper interesting. Also, what is Ayana? A little update on what she's doing with AI and digital painting. See, AI painting. So here is the AI, here's the digital painting. So just a very interesting contrast. And so continuing to experiment. There are black and white stories, and this is something called, from a series called Random, Untitled. So again, just playing with this, you know, digital brush strokes and mark making, a lot of it over here. And with AI, I just find this to be a super interesting contrast with a lot of potential. Look at Venta. I don't know if we've seen this before, but if we haven't, it's worth looking at again. These AI works by Venta, like the development Venta has made since going into AI is crazy. It's crazy. So maybe this is V4 of Midjourney. I don't know, but they're quite something. You know, they almost remind me, and maybe this is maybe one of the sources, is Yves Tanguy. Oh, I need to show you guys pictures of that Surrealist show. I almost forgot about that. I'm going to try and I'll write it down, and I will do it. I'll try and do it tomorrow. This show's long anyway because it's kind of after the weekend. But kind of reminds me, Yves Tanguy is a famous Surrealist, and his later work, yeah, almost reminds me, what Venta was doing almost reminds me of this, right? Can you see it? These are great paintings. I'm not sure if I actually saw this on the weekend. These are like some of his greatest paintings. Anyways, Assume, just wrapping up here, almost done. Assume, I'm not sure if we looked at this either on Friday, but I thought this was new because we actually had what looks like the artist for the first time in one of these rooms, in one of these modern art studios. So I thought that was really cool. Another digital art, AI art, mixed media work by Zoom, edition of 10, so nice low edition there. And The Future of Architecture by Mr. Ginger Sir. This is using Midjourney 4. So I'm going to have to break out Midjourney 4 here sometime very soon too. I mean, that looks pretty cool and kind of really highly rendered. Look at young Caravaggio. I noticed this on his Instagram. So again, combining AI with contemporary kind of clothing and fashion with Renaissance art, right? Look at these. I feel like I know the painting that this came from. these colors. So anyways, very interesting work. Kind of in the spirit of Strange Thing a little bit, but totally its own thing. I mean, combining with these Renaissance painting objects. Very interesting, kind of floating. I believe Polly Jojo sent me this piece, this tweet. Chicken and rice, digital and physical, sold for $3,600. So again, physical work being sold in a digital marketplace, $3,600 US. This isn't like an NFT. This is like, that's a lot of money for physical work. So that's pretty great. And this sold, interestingly, to Richard Nadler. So remember ADAD is the guy with the shirt, who had the shirt that Mikey de la Creme was talking about. And Richard Nadler is that collector who is now surviving off of art. I don't want to call him a collector artist because maybe he was an artist first. Unknown Collector is kind of our collector artist guy. But anyways, this is really nice work. And it kind of makes it more impressive to me that this was made physically because there's no undo on physical. So obviously ADAD is quite a good artist. Now it's interesting how ADAD decided to sell it. Chicken and rice, digital and physical, sold for $3,600. So just another kind of play on this interrelationship between the digital and the physical. So very interesting. Another, I believe, physical work by Walk of Mike Tyson. Another just totally original portrait, and which looks totally like Mike Tyson, I think. Maybe it's just the tattoo, but it looks like Mike Tyson. Just a virtuoso of spray paint, in my opinion. Like, I mean, incredible. And that, my friends, is our show. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.